Hey, what is up, everyone? It is Rich and Kelsey, the two most handsomest men that you could ever see on Mother's Day.
Couple mama's boys.
You actually look quite dignified from this angle. I noticed it when I saw you. I don't know if it was the Jack show or another thing, but yeah, you know what? So the big conversation on Twitter and Facebook right now is the Mount Rushmore of inkers. You actually, not as an inker, but you have Mount Rushmore type facial features. I could see you carved in a mount.
I was wondering, I was like, who are we talking about? Am I the Mount Rushmore of inkers? I was like totally lost there for a second.
You look like a president from 1894. No.
I'll be the president of comics this year. Right. How about that? Well, if everybody elects me, I'll bring joy and awesome art to the people.
You're a cross between Stonewall Jackson and Teddy Roosevelt. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hopefully they were good presidents. I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Was he a president?
I know. They're like Teddy Roosevelt. That guy was a piece of crap.
Yeah.
Kelsey, he comes from the land of the ice and snow.
Yeah, that's true.
Or whatever it is. Hammer of the gods. Good. All right. So
how is everybody? Look at this.
I know. What is up, everyone? It's been a few weeks. I actually told this to Kelsey. I said, when I do videos now, I don't think they're as good as when we're together.
Yeah, there's something about, when somebody brings something up and that sparks another, oh yeah, what about this? And oh yeah, what about this? And that's why I love brainstorming so much. We coming up with stories. It's like fun to have another brain there.
Wow. Huh? What is that? Cassis is in London. I was like, ooh, London. That sounds fun.
So it's early in the morning there right now. Or yeah. I don't know. Oh no, it's night. It's night.
And everyone dodged the falling rocket. Everyone made it through okay.
Oh, I heard about that.
Yeah. The Chinese are having a bad 2 years.
Did it crash into the ocean or something?
It crashed into the ocean. Yeah, it crashed into the ocean. So thank God. I mean, that would have been terrible if people were hurt by it. But yeah.
Would have been a hell of a spectacle though. But yeah. My dark side's getting out. Sorry.
They said that the piece that was tumbling out of control was either 10 stories. I think it was 10 stories tall and 23 tons.
Good Lord.
When it went through the atmosphere, it basically broke up, but then the pieces fell into the ocean. But yeah, it was like kind of like something out of like a sci-fi novel.
Yeah, that's trippy because they say that if it depends on the angle, if it was headed that way, that size of object could probably wipe out half the planet. If it was coming out
10 stories tall. Yeah. That's a big object. Man, it's nuts. But okay, so we're not going to waste too much time because it is Mother's Day and we really appreciate people tuning in. So we're going to kind of get right into Whilce. But we'll do a little preamble about Whilce. But yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to look at his inks on long shot a little bit. I have some original art scans of that. We're going to look at a little tiny bit of the Punisher work that he and Scott Williams did together. Yeah. We're going to look at X Factor with Art T. Bear. We're going to look at some Legion of the Night, and then we're going to dip our toe into Wetworks, but not get too heavy into Wetworks. We'll save Wetworks in that era for the thing. But to me,
for when Whilce comes on. Yeah. When we get Whilce on the show, we'll go.
Yeah, those X Factor issues are awesome. And just to be clear too, because a lot of not a lot, but I mean, obviously the thought was, even from me doing this, is Art T. Bear. So Art T. Bear did incredible work on X Factor, but I knew going into this video that the 100% focus wasn't going to be on that. And I had already wanted to have Art on just to talk about his career in general. So it was our choice to not have a guest on is really just based on the kind of the breadth of work we're going to look at. And yeah.
Well, and the reason to have Art in his own show is because of the breadth of his work. I mean, he's very prolific in his own right, and I want to get into every bit and piece of it. And he's got great stories. So,
right. Well, and the fact that he ended up doing finishes to penciling and inking the X-Men, right? Like that was the transition that he made.
And then he took over to penciler. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. So that'll be something.
That's a hell of a story. I want to hear about that. And he was just excited as all get out of it.
God, I can't even imagine the royalty checks on that stuff. Ooh, must have been great.
But Whilce,
Whilce. When did you first see Whilce's work? Because you're going to have seen it earlier than I have.
I'm trying to think. Like, I Long Shot is before me. So I kind of came to that one late. But I want to say that it was the X Factor, the first X Factor that he did, because I was, comics were on the shelf at 7-Eleven,
right?
And everywhere. So I'd walk in and that thing was brightly colored. It was exciting. I was already into like Jim Lee probably and Liefeld. And so it was just more of that aesthetic that I was really responding to. So I think that might have been the first time I'd ever seen his stuff. But then, quickly I saw that he had done like the Legion. And I'm glad that you're bringing that up, because that was they had that cover as an ad in almost every comic book I bought at that time.
I know.
You know what I'm talking about? It was in the back.
Yeah,
exactly. And I couldn't find it for years, but I remember looking at that going, oh my God, like that image was burned in my brain. It was horrifying.
Well, the funny thing is pre-eBay, that was actually slightly difficult to find. So it took me a couple of years to actually get those books, the two issues. But and what's funny is I kind of sprung that on you because we had never talked about going over a little bit of that work, but it is incredible.
It's fun.
I can't even remember who inked it, if Whilce did it himself or we'll see who it is, but I don't even know who did the inks on that project.
But I think he might have painted the cover too. Like I think he might have done his own colors, which is cool. I just found out about that like yesterday, that he was a painter.
Right. So the first thing that I ever saw of Whilce's, which is one that gets a lot of people very, very excited, and I think I'll share this with a lot of people, is the preview for Wetworks.
Oh God, that was just.
I saw that and I was like, I've never seen comic art that looks this advanced.
For the longest time, because it was still early on in my knowledge of comics, I couldn't understand the metal. Like I just couldn't understand it. I didn't understand that they even painted comics with airbrushes and watercolors. I didn't understand any of that. And then computer, and then I didn't really understand any of it. I just saw it looked real to me somehow. The metal was so just so brilliantly rendered. It just it made me think it was real somehow. I don't know. It was a very weird experience. But it was magic. He was pulling magic.
Brandon did a super chat. So Brandon, what we're going to do for this question, I'll read it real quick and then I'll explain what we can do to describe this throughout the video, because Whilce is a master of lighting.
Oh, yeah.
So Brandon's question for you guys: what are some methods and exercises you guys recommend for learning light and shadow? So again, what I'm going to do is throughout the video, I will answer this question for you with examples right out of Whilce's art. But essentially what it is if you could picture like a flashlight going over an object, like just a simple form, like say like a cylinder with maybe like a sphere attached to it, when you can start to imagine what light would look like shining over, like I've got a light right here on me. So you can see this side of my face is more lit. My hat is creating a shadow. If you just look at those
lighting
shapes. But I'll give you visual examples throughout the video, and I'll
I don't have a secondary light doing an edge lighting like you got, or fill light. I just have the hard edge. It's more like a Frank Miller thing.
Here's an example.
Mignola.
Watch this. Okay, do you see there's reflective light coming off of this DVD case now that's lighting right here on my face? So there's all these little, there's like little tricks, but essentially what it is you have to be able to light very simple geometry first, because like Kelsey's face is maybe 27 different planes, meaning angles, and the light will hit all those angles and it's going to catch on little planes.
Here, there. And then you see the chiaroscuro effect from the light at the tip of my nose and how the shadow of my cheek, how that separates.
Look. Okay, look between Kelsey's. So look at Kelsey's eyebrow that's near the light, like the lit side of his face. Okay, do you see the little cast shadow in the middle of his forehead? That's because there's a crease there. Now, if you look at the pad on the other side of his forehead, that's catching light because that protrudes more. Right there. That's have to. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna pull it back to Whilce about how I didn't realize that he might have been one of the earliest guys to experiment with dual lighting, because I'm pretty sure Dale Keown was doing it like from an early time back in the aerosol days, but like in this modern style, like he was doing dual lighting and stuff, which is where you have this, the high, most of it's being hit with this main light, and then he'll just have a rim light kind of outlining this side, and that's like a different color, or whatever.
What's exciting about lighting, and I know it's very, very confusing when you don't understand it, is honestly, it's quite simple and it makes a lot of sense. Where it gets complicated is the multiplication of planes. When you have to be able to understand the forms that you're lighting. So like on an arm, like the bicep is got like certain topography to it, but I really do stress this, and I stress it on my Patreon all the time. When I'm giving a guy lessons right now that's what I would consider almost like a true beginner. I'm going to get this guy good so fast because I've already taught him things that it's like it would take 2 years for you to figure it out on your own, but I'm teaching him form and moving around form. And when you can move around form and then you can light form, then you start to learn these other things like okay, a face is this many angles, or whatever. But it's just more, it makes more sense.
That's a plug for Richard Friend's Patreon.
I really plug it. I know how good it is. People can find out now or later. But
well, not too much because you got a lot of work to do, so you can't have too much of that going on.
So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get into some long shots. This is going to be so fun. Oh my god!
I'll be watching for super chats and stuff. So if you guys have any questions, but I'll be reading regular chat too. So
yeah. And any questions you guys have, please throw them up.
What's going to be first? The inks from Long Shot. Yeah.
So some of these pages were credited to Scott Williams and Whilce inking them, but I didn't realize that Scott. I don't know if they were maybe working together, but anyway, as far as I know, that these are Whilce inks.
I kind of had the feeling that Scott was an assistant to Whilce at their very early days.
They were friends. I do know that.
Yeah. See, I don't know
This is Arthur Adams pencils, and then we're gonna say Whilce inks.
Yeah, you could tell in the cross hatching and stuff. He's got a very. It's almost like I was saying before about an artist's handwriting. Once you get really comfortable with drawing, it's almost a signature. You can't help but have your style come out because it's like your own handwriting, and you can kind of see that in the rendering and stuff here.
I'm gonna grab a color so I can circle things as we're in full screen.
It's interesting because he's doing stuff in the rendering that's close to like what Art Adams, but he's adding that kind of flair to it, that little extra, the Homage Studio look,
Yeah, well, look at this stuff right here and in here. This is really, really nice inks. He's doing some real nice techniques there.
Yeah, just adds a little flair to it.
This too. I mean, he's got like a nice little thin line, kind of a medium line, and then a thick line. So you've got thin, medium, thick, stuff like that. That thought process he's starting to get into advanced ideas. This right here, the blips and bloops. That becomes.
I pulled a lot of that stuff from Scott Williams, but it would be interesting to. We'll find out that he actually made those few marks. Those were Scott's.
Right. It could be. I've shared this story before. It was really funny. So I was inking a lot of Yeah, this is nice. So the light's coming from this direction right here, and what he's doing is there's a space between it, but each finger is creating a thing. Now, hair is a different texture, so do you notice that he doesn't have the shadow go up into the hair? I mean, it easily could have, but he did it with like lines. That's a very, very clever idea.
Well, a good way to demonstrate your planes thing is how it goes around the nose. You know, see how it goes. It's defining like the corner of it and going up over.
Yeah. Do you see the topography here? There's a plane that goes like this. I describe it as driving a little car. Here's the car. The car is driving up the cheek. It starts to go up over the nose, and then it goes like this. But if you don't understand those planes, the second you start doing stuff like this and having lines, one, cross planes, meaning that like if this is a solid shape and this is a solid shape and this is a solid shape, if your line extends over two of the forms, you've already fucked up. The Drez
1210 says it's crazy how different and beautiful black and white art looks, and that's so true. I wonder. I think we're losing a lot of that with the animation kind of style, where we're losing kind of the art of shadow placement and black placement and stuff. So it's really fun to kind of go back to some of that and seeing some of this early stuff, because they were really good at it. Actually,
this isn't. I was looking at thumbnails. So here we go. Let me go full screen. I had opened the wrong file. Look at this page. This is great. Oh my god, Art Adams is insane.
Cassis Brooks says, has a black and white edition of this long shot ever been released? I don't know. Did they do an essentials?
That's why I was just thinking. I don't know if it's ever been booked up in an essentials. You know who would know is Dan Fraga. Dan would know in 2 seconds. Dan, if you're out there, let us know, because Dan will know for sure.
Is he a big Art Adams fan? He's
a huge Art Adams fan, and he's I would consider an essential expert. He knows those books.
Love those books.
The second we started working together, he's like, you need to get these 3 Marvel essentials like Prana. And I was like, yeah. It was true. I had one of them and I bought the other 2. One of them was kind of expensive.
We should do a Marvel essentials with Dan. Get him on here and go through some of them. Those are fun. I got a whole shelf full of them back here.
Dan is. I'm going to shut this one. We don't need it right now. Oh, I don't know. Look at this page. This is gorgeous. This almost reminds me of Barry Windsor Smith.
See, this kind of stuff terrifies me. Like if I was an inker and I was confronted with this, I don't know. I'd probably have to simplify it in some way.
I'm amazed that Art had the patience to pencil all this. Like if I would like, it would drive me nuts penciling it all, but I could ink it because you could go with a brush and you know what I mean, put place in leaves. But God, doing this with a pencil would be really tedious.
Could you do that if you had an inker you trust, who you've worked with, or at least you've seen their work and you know they could do it? You can kind of do a shape of a bush and be like, do your thing here, like bush. Yeah.
This is,
but that would be considered finishing at that point, right?
Yeah, for sure.
There's almost some McFarlane in that.
What a lively line Whilce has. Boy, it's really. I think some of this line, and now not necessarily where Whilce pulled it from, but I know Scott Williams is a big Klaus Janson fan, and Klaus really is the master of that like thin, thick thing, the blue kind of thing. And I don't know if that's where it originated from. Also, Terry Austin would be another one.
Yeah, this again looks to me like that handwriting thing. Like when you look at Sergio Aragonés, for instance, there's not a lot of like, I'm trying to make this line do this. It's almost like they're just like on the phone, and it just, it looks so natural that way, I think.
But really, really excellent panel. So we'll move through this a little bit quicker because we want to obviously get to the Whilce pencils and stuff like this. But this is nice. Yeah. This is actually a very, very cool page. Beautiful top
so
panel.
Much detail. But Whilce is not afraid of the detail because he'll carry this on into his own stuff, So
this is actually funny, Kelsey. Does this remind you of any movie that I mentioned to you, like in the last couple of weeks? Do you remember I said that there was
it does.
This
the
is so
Django, or what is it called? Oh,
it was
man.
called The Good, the Bad, and
the Stupid, or what was it?
something like that. It's a Korean action movie that's
Yeah.
really good. But the opening sequence is guys on motorcycles chasing a train, but it's like, is it the Old West or is it now?
Yeah.
It was real interesting, but this is looks right out of it. It's funny.
Yeah, Art Adams, Cassie Brooke says Arthur Adams blew his mind back in the day. I think he blew everyone's mind. He came out of he just came out kind of fully formed, and amazing, like immediately.
Yep.
Looks like McFarlane had Art Adams influence, yes, and Michael Golden. But yeah, and there's bits in X-Men that we looked at in the Jim Lee book here, where you see Jim turn on Art Adams' influence on like one issue, where it was like, whoa, So, nice. Oh wow, he's so good at hair. That's another Whilce trademark for me. Is the hair.
These lines are so exciting, man. I need
think
more.
He's doing it really fast. I think he's doing it really fast.
I need more of that in my art now.
I was going to save this, but since we're talking about it fast, I heard, and I don't know if it's true, it could be just urban legend at this point, but I heard in the Homage Studios days, everybody would be in there cranking away on pages, and Whilce would show up one day and do all of his issue in like 1 or 2 days. Like
Whilce is fast. I don't know if you can get through Wetworks pages like that fast. That's
I think this was back in the Homage Studios, or when they were doing X-Men and stuff, X Factor.
Right. No, that's possible. Yeah, the Wetworks stuff was very, very labor intensive, I believe.
So real quick, how would you do this? Would you put down the thin lines first and then go back and hit them with
either a brush or a nib, and then do the heavier line like through this like that?
Do you think he's using this is way back in the day, so he's probably using a nib, right?
These look too thick to be a nib. I'm assuming that that's a brush. The weird thing about it is they're very rounded. They're very rounded strokes, but he's not doing the Scott Williams thing, is where you place the brush down and you kind of pull it like this and you get kind of more of that shape. Whilce is like taking the brush and getting a very almost like that kind of thing. So he might be using more ink on it. Like the brush might have quite a bit of ink and he just does the line. They're all one and done, kind of like that. But yeah, Scott Williams will lay the brush down, or at least this is how I do it, is I kind of lay the brush down so it's like it touches the canvas and I kind of get this shape and then I pull it and it'll get kind of like these lines.
17762.0 tech pen on the train and brush on the bike, or is that tech pen 2? We've already passed that page, but I'm sure there's some tech pen in here somewhere.
Sure. Tech pen's nice because it's quite fast. Look at this. This is crazy. This is marker for sure.
This is marker. So when they're saying tech pen, we're talking repeatiographs,
right? Like a Kohinoor,
like in this time period, yeah. But this is definitely marker. Early marker turns this purple.
Well, you can see there's these raindrops that are going through it are clearly like a rapidograph or a type of like a not a multi-liner. I'm sorry, what's the other brand called? Rapidoliner. But these are very deadweight lines. There's no fluctuation. Now I do raindrops with a Hunt 102, so I'll stick down like an inking triangle. And I actually pull the line and flick it so I get a thick and thin. And sometimes I'll even start it.
Is this so you get a little rain drop at the end?
Yeah. So I can blip it, flick it fast, and even blip it at the end if I want, or do a few little things. I need to actually get back to doing some inking videos for people. That's kind of one of my to-dos that I want to at least post 1 or 2 inking videos a month for people.
Yeah, and plus there's a lot of people I'd like to see what you would do on too. I should probably do that with some coloring and stuff, because I
need Mount Rushmore to make one place for me in the next 20 years. I wasn't even mentioned once.
There's more rock. There we got. There's more spots.
Yeah. Glapion didn't get mentioned either, so I think we're huge oversights. No.
Okay, wait a minute. I must have missed something. So somebody put out a Mount Rushmore of inkers thing.
They did it. They've done it with pencilers, where they go like, if you were going to have a Mount Rushmore of pencilers, who would be the 4 pencilers on it? And you'd go, well, okay, like Jack Kirby, John Buscema, Frazetta, whatever.
So hard. That's hard. For inkers, it's especially hard because I like so many for very specific reasons.
I would think you would have to do you would have to do at least 2 of the OG inkers. You know what I mean?
Joe Sinnott. I love Joe Sinnott.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think Klaus Janson, you can make an argument for. I also think Terry Austin was highly influential.
He and Art Adams kind of generated that style in a way. I mean, I think Art already had a level of that, but it was completed by Terry. So
we're good on that. So let's get into let's look at the Legion stuff. Legion of the Night.
This is our Wendy's review, and no, we were watching this food reviewer the other day.
oh, that's funny.
He was reviewing a Wendy's burger. I don't know if he liked it. I think he did. Everybody was calling it. Yeah, his
okay, so I'm gonna grab some Punisher pages, actually. We'll look at Punisher real quick.
Yeah, so this is my least familiar of the older Whilce work, even though it's most people's favorite of Whilce's work, I think.
So although my first introduction into Whilce's stuff was Wetworks wasn't really coming out like at a lightning pace. And so at my local comic book shop, they had 2 long boxes that they called like a quarter box. And there was a big run of Whilce's Punisher in there. And I bought every single issue, and I was so proud of all of them. And I loved reading them too. But his Frank Castle to me was so great because he looked like a regular guy that could just kick ass.
And he had great hair. He's always got the great hair. So Whilce must have great hair. I need to look at it.
He does actually have. He has beautiful hair.
It makes me wonder if Travis got a little bit of his hair from Whilce, because there is a little Travis in some of this hair.
Sure. Well, it's funny because the first guy that got me excited about drawing hair was Whilce. Definitely, Whilce and Scott Williams. Man, that hair on Wetworks, it was just like I was like, man, I don't know what they're up to, but
what's funny is I didn't realize it was Whilce at the time, but that X-Men issue that he and Jim did, that they supposedly did in like a weekend or whatever it was. Yeah. That's the first time I'd seen Whilce's hair, I think, and that blew my mind. And I was trying to draw that ever since. It's just coming out of Gambit's head, just flying everywhere.
Right. And these are more just really beautiful strokes with the those thick and then thin lines that they're doing on stuff. It's really nice.
I haven't worked with a lot of inkers, but I think Andy Park worked with me one time, I think, and he had this kind of style, this bloop bloop bloop, and I loved it.
Right.
And I've always wondered how to do it, and you find out it's kind of like how you use the pen, and I don't think you could do it with tech pens or with markers and stuff as well.
No.
Have you found? No. There's not like some special marker that
I fake it with a Koh-i-Noor rapidograph, but I draw everything. I draw the thick line. I draw the thin line. I do this, but I know what I want it to look like. So it's like I can replicate it real fast. I could do it with a micron too, where I could go in and make all this stuff. I can do brush inking with a micron that you would never ever know it's not brush, but it's because I know the lines that I want. But this is all very, very cool.
It's just interesting to look at,
These are really solid drawings. Like these faces are very well constructed.
Yeah, Mr. Wing says Whilce's anatomy gets wonky at times, and that's true. But like and that's true for like McFarlane and for even Jim at occasionally. But it's really like the excitement and how he approaches page layout, and it makes up for that stuff, It's a great example to people that don't have their anatomy all down. It's like sometimes you can razzle dazzle them, with how you put it all together. And this is great. Look at this page.
Oh
That guy ain't great proportions, but he looks great.
He looks so cool. Whilce, like if you ever like see any of Whilce's art or when he posts sketches, he's very into segments, and so he generally he's less inclined if he's sketching, as far as I've ever seen, to sketch finished things, and generally he'll work on like he'll draw like this arm, or he'll draw like a side view of a figure and stuff like that, and sometimes they have hands, sometimes they don't. He can draw it all, but I mean most artists have sort of like their favorite things to draw.
Well, and plus, kind of going back to some of the strange anatomy too, is you got to remember too how fast these guys were producing this stuff. Like I really worked at my anatomy, and I think it's boring now. So like I almost want to go back to when I didn't know anatomy quite as well, and it was just a little more exciting, somehow. I don't know, because I think because you're pushing the body in ways that isn't realistic, but it looks cool,
Yeah. So one kind of fun thing that you can do with this stuff too is, okay, remember that at some point Whilce and Scott Williams merge with Jim Lee. They all become friends, and stuff like this Zipatone, you may see this exact zip start to cross over into Jim's art at this time. So this is 1988, or January of 89. So like, these guys started to share an office, and I don't know what year, but yeah, it's kind of fun. But like,
Whilce moved into the studio and brought his stack of zip, and everybody was like, ooh, yeah, right. Let me get a piece of that.
And look at this lettering on the board, or like a sound effect on the board. This is nice, man. This Punisher is great right here.
I missed that. I want to get back to like lettering on the board and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so fun. Look at those wispy lines
sign on his forehead.
Oh, whoa. Is that
funny.
character?
I guess.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that character.
I don't either.
Can't do that today. No way.
No. What's interesting is I actually saw someone saying that so Travis did the World War II Wolverine Wildcats book, and some people were a little triggered that there was like Nazi symbols in that comic, and I'm thinking, well, it is World War II, and they're Nazis. Like, they're bad guys. Not like I don't think that they were promoting it as like something positive. It's like
no, people are just confused.
Yeah. You can really see like that Frank Miller kind of Klaus Janson-y thing going on. Man, this is just incredible art though. Man alive, so good.
I like you were talking about Scott's super fine inking before, like that little wisp on the cheek of the what's his face? Kingpin. Yeah, I think that's Kingpin. Yeah. Is that, do you think that's just a pen done super light, fast, or you think that brush?
Those look like crow quill strokes, but they could be brush.
Yeah.
They could be brush.
I used to do stuff like that with a brush, but it was hard to control the start and stop, or the stop of it. The start of it is really easy, but
if I could talk Scott Williams into coming on, I would want to talk to him for like 4 hours, because he's
that's why he's not. That's why he doesn't want. I don't want to talk for 4 hours about myself.
Well, we make it fun. When Lee Bermejo came on, when we were finished, he was like, "Man, that was so fun." And I was like, "I told you, dude. Like, I'm not a stick in the mud. Like, I know what." Working around these artists, this is the one thing is people go like, why didn't you pick so-and-so's brain more, or something like that? It's really not how it works. Like, you don't share an office with someone like Scott Williams and go in and like grill them about shit.
You got to pace it out a little.
you become friends with them, and you let things naturally sort of like happen. Right. But I know what these guys are interested in talking about. They're like, they're fans just like we are.
Wait. I see you ready to push button. Go down a little bit. I want to ask you about an inking technique.
Sure.
The background there, how it has almost a calligraphy flat edge, but that's
brush.
What is
and
that?
This is the exact stroke that I was talking about with the brush. Scott's taking the brush and he lays it down. So this is the point of the brush right here. Okay, like that's the point of the brush. He lays it down so that he gets this mark started like this. And then he pulls the line quickly like this. But these are all freehand as far as I can tell. But he's got a steady hand. So he's going like this. He sets the line down, he flicks it. He sets the line down, he flicks it.
I'm always worried though. Like I use when I'm doing a dry brush and I'm obliterating the brush like that, I use a real crappy brush. So I'm always afraid that moving a brush, like a nice brush on its side like that, eventually you're going to end up with a weird shaped brush. Is that the case or?
The brushes generally will start to fall apart just kind of on their own. It is funny is I had a great brush 2 days ago. I picked it up the next day. The thing literally was the biggest piece of shit. And I honestly don't know what happened. It was perfect. It was fairly new. And it was just, I was like, oh man, this is a great brush. Next day, thing's gone. I don't know what happened.
It's kind of it's an organic thing. So I guess it's kind of hard to.
No stroke like this will damage your brush. What will damage your brush is smashing it down, like pushing it where the bristles or doing something like that. You don't want to do that. And then someone had asked me about cleaning a brush. So generally speaking, like if I was going to do an area like this, I would go in, and I would throw the lines. So, I would do maybe this section, then I would dip it in water, kind of clean off my brush. I would dry it off on a towel. So I would kind of run it on a towel, but I spin it so that I'm getting the brush point back. So brush, and then I would go in and I would do another set, and then I would rinse it off and dry it off, and then do another set, rinse it off, dry it off. But this is real fast. This is not, I'm not, cleaning the brush. I'm just sort of giving it a little attention. You want to keep your brush moist. It'll keep a better point when it's a little damp.
Dumbest Name says inking traditionally is scary as hell.
Yeah, it can be.
It can be. And that's why I kind of get to the point where I'm talking about handwriting, because like I don't think that Whilce or Scott or any of these guys or you go into it with a nervous mindset. You just go into it and just start cranking it out, right? And it gets more comfortable as you.
I get nervous if I'm drawing in ink more. You know what I mean? Like if I had just a sketch of this and I kind of know what I want, but it's not all there. And then you start going like, well, do I want to put more creases in his forehead? But I wanted to show this really quick. So when you dip a brush in ink, you want to get it about this much in the ink. Okay, try not to get ink up in this area, and in particular inside of here, because once ink dries inside of the vessel, I believe it's called, your brush is much more likely to dry and get stuff like this. So you just want to get your brush into the ink about this far, and that will help.
I love Old Dirty Fatty says, Kelsey, you're an amazing, talented. Stop being a pussy. I don't know. I'm one of the most experimentative comic book artists you will ever see. So I'm fearless. I don't know what I'm being a pussy for. I will literally try anything on an art page. So yeah, I love how it fades into the shadow of the background. I love stuff like that.
So, and then here for the super chat question, I'm going to show them something really, really quick. Okay. So we're going to have very simple block shapes for this figure. All right. Okay, so this is the rough of what we got going on. The light source is coming from up here. Now I'm going to grab a different color really fast. I'm going to show you something. We'll do it in orange. I do this on Patreon all the time. There's the plug. All right, so look, when the light is coming from here and it's hitting this, and so it's going to go over this area like this. Do you see this? So it's going to be able to hit this plane. Now, the top of your ass sticks out, so it's going to hit this. As your butt tucks under, this is going to be in shadow, just like he did here. So this light source also can hit this, and it can hit the top of this. Okay, this is reflective light. The light from up here is hitting these objects here, but it's hitting the ground right here, and it's bouncing back at the figure, and you get this. You see that? This is a top plane, so it hits this. The light's coming from here. It can hit the back of the tricep. The light's coming from here. It can light all this up. This is what I call fictional lighting, which is his glove is white. He keeps the glove white just as a stylistic choice. Realistically speaking, you would start to get dark areas right here if you were going to keep the light consistent, because this plane is going away from the light, and the light would start to hit the top of the hand. Sorry. The light would hit the top of the hand. Okay.
Now, if you want any more, go watch a tutorial video.
Yeah.
Come on.
But do you think,
Steel traditional art.
Yeah.
Traditional art, $20, but no comment. No question. But
You
thank
can
you
throw
very
in a
much.
comment later. But yeah, and the thing is as fast as I knock that out, I'm telling you, I was telling Kelsey I can draw a page in like 3 hours. It takes me about 5 or 6 hours to ink it.
Quit bragging.
Yeah. But it's because I've practiced it so much. Okay, so this is a X Factor page. So let's now let's get into Legion.
I'm curious how many people, like where people in the chat first saw Whilce, if they were Punisher crew or if they were X Factor crew, because that's where I'm sure a lot of the age group is probably around 30s to 40s, so they probably all came in the same time we did. So I'm wondering if it was Punisher or X Factor or Legion. Look at this stuff. Oh, you're getting into the Legion stuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure which came first. We'll just for argument's sake, we'll say Legion, and then we'll go into X Factor.
So Dumbest Name says X-Men. I forgot he did some X-Men stuff.
Yeah. So this is Legion of the Night, which is, I believe, kind of I was considered a werewolf story, but apparently it's got dragons as well.
I didn't know what it was. But look at this hand painted comics, man.
It feels very Neil Adams to me.
What Neil? What'd you say, Neil Adams? Yeah,
it feels very Neil Adams.
I wonder if he comes from the Neil Adams school. That's
I don't know. Look at the drawing here; it's just fantastic.
Well, I don't know that he's
he comes from the light sitting here, and it's going into the shadow.
He can't stop being a teacher. He comes from the Philippines, and if you know anything about the Filipino artists, there's like Rudy Nebris, who has a very fine line like this, a lot of feathering, perfectly feathered with a brush. Rudy Nebris is excellent. Who else was who am I thinking of that was like super refined?
Was Alex Nino Filipino?
Alex Nino is also Filipino.
Esteban Maroto.
Yeah, exactly. So you can kind of see those influences probably come from home as well, because there was a lot of amazing guys.
Well, this is how I've always seen Filipino art. This is obviously a generalization. Is
Alfredo Alcala? Yeah,
very, very detailed and very heavily shadowed.
Yeah,
but both of those qualities seem to really encapsulate an aesthetic that they like.
Nestor Redondo.
Yeah,
they did a lot of Conan work. So if you want to check out a lot of those guys, you can see old stuff in Conan, and it's just so beautiful, so good. This is so weird, man. I don't know anything about Legion. It doesn't have anything to do with Legion. It's Legion of the Night.
I'm thinking that this might have been after X Factor, because this is starting to look a lot more like his Wetworks work to me. You can see a little Frank Castle in this still.
Some Strowman in there. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if it's
the
rendering maybe, or because he's so graphic, but he does have some of this kind of rendering.
Wow, this is so look at that. These little tiny figures is so Whilce.
This is what I'm talking about the excitement of the page layout too, because like this is totally readable. You don't get lost. You know kind of where your eye goes. But it's not rigid at all. It flows across the page,
Yeah.
Really fun.
Yeah. This is very Whilce too. So Whilce he'll do this thing where he will put something in like almost like a 3-point perspective, and then he draws little figures. You'll see this theme quite a bit in Wetworks. It could be like guys standing in front of a tomb or whatever, but it's a really beautiful and generally very quite open, like there's a lot of negative space, meaning no detail. And I always like that about Whilce's stuff.
But it kind of goes with what I've heard McFarlane say before, is never have the same size character on the page. Like every shot of the character should be a different scale. Right. It just makes it interesting for your eye, when it scans across the page. And this is a great example of that. You got mid shots, you got far away shots, mid-level shots, and some cool giant shot. What's going on with his hand? It looks all twisted up.
I was noticing that too. I think his fingers are like completely broken.
Yeah.
His eye is bulging out of his head, so he's obviously
he got the crap beaten out of him.
This is such a powerful and well executed drawing though. Even though the aesthetic is a little weird, but I mean, man, I would love to be able to draw that good.
There's a lot of drama in this stuff too, which is, you know, the lighting adds to that. The pushing of the pose, you know, it all adds to the drama. Comics are good for melodrama. Look at the shadowing on the building. It's interesting.
He's so good.
I mean, it's cool.
God, this down shot is great too. It's this 3-point perspective.
This is a great example too of making interesting background stuff, because like in that second shot, or the shape of that desk in the first one, it's like I wouldn't have thought of doing that. I just would have done a rectangle.
I know.
Talk about Stroman. Stroman was also very good at that, about making actual places you kind of want to be in. Look at that.
It's the computer. That's advanced.
Oh, that's true.
Because this is like probably 1990.
90, yeah. That's why it's a big box on another big box.
I know, right? Now it would be like a big Apple monitor like this.
Yeah.
Cintiq.
He'd just be on his cell phone,
Yeah. Well, it was funny as someone posted a Mother's Day picture, and it was like a mom sitting with her 4 kids at like a picnic table, and she's looking at a sandwich, and I don't know why I thought she was holding a cell phone, but it was like a photo from like 1967, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot we didn't have cell phones back then, and people weren't like constantly looking at them.
Yeah, when you get old movies when they're get into a car wreck or something, they're like, all right, well, I gotta walk 20 miles to the last gas station. It's like, now you just call AAA. Yeah.
You know what, I was getting coffee last week, and a guy walked up to me and he's like, is there a cell phone, or is there a pay phone anywhere around here? And I was like, oh man.
Pay phone.
Yeah. Obviously his cell phone was dead or something. I don't even know. Like, this cat is great.
Yeah, this is so, look at that dual lighting is so cool, but just I'm not sure I'm digging the color. I kind of am, because it's different and it's hand done. It is kind of dark and muddy.
It's a little too airbrushy for my tastes. Like it literally looks like airbrush art. Like, I'm not a huge fan of that.
Look at that. I'm curious what the audience thinks about having the panels. What would you call that? Not exemplify, but they personify kind of the mood of what's happening. So the story panels themselves are helping tell the story of what's going on. I personally love that, but
this is, again, getting into very, very classic Whilce iconography that you didn't see earlier in his stuff. And we'll again, I'm under the impression that X Factor is before this, so we'll start to see the evolution of these types of ideas happening in his work more. But again, white background. This is classic Whilce. Unusual panels, and then in fact, even art that is affected by the actual panel itself in very creative ways. Because I don't know, like the panel borders, those crazy panel borders that Whilce would do, like, was anyone doing those before him with the all this kind of stuff around it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I'm sure people were playing around with it, but that's a good point, because it almost came out of his style in a way.
Yeah, God, this is great. Oh my God.
Wow.
What a spread. Holy shoot.
I love that character design too. It's really neat.
Me too. Oh my God.
That's what got my attention in that ad, was that character standing on this pile of bodies or whatever it was. I couldn't tell what it was, but it was exciting.
The lighting on all this stuff is super cool and creepy too.
It seems like most people really dig that kind of page layout, and I do as well. But the flip side of that is maybe Otomo for Akira. No less exciting, really, once you get into what's happening within the panel structure. But this kind of has this immediacy. This, you immediately kind of get this effect.
The fact that he did this for this final panel, and it's even at a weird angle. On top of the fact that it's like kind of like, you know, like 3-point perspective, the panel quarter shape.
That has to be chalked up because he doesn't really do a lot of that today. But this book shows this fearlessness of youth. I think, you know, he was. He's like, why can't I do that? You know,
right? Exactly.
What do you mean?
This is so Neil Adams. Wow. This is so Neil Adams.
This has to be kind of a love letter to The Thing, to John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah.
You got all these wacky creature, amalgams.
That beautiful aesthetic of Whilce. Just that, I don't even know what you call it. Just so the flourish of it.
God, I'd be terrified to color some of that because you'd be like, what is see-through and what's not? You know, what do I do?
Yeah,
it's so fine.
I think
maybe Michael Turner. I am once I get started.
God,
I was telling somebody the other day about it's the anxiety before you start, and then once you get going, it's fine.
Oh, and this is very Wetworks too. It's funny.
Hold on, what was it? Oh yeah, I like the coloring here. He's got that blue and orange kind of thing going on.
Yeah,
that Hollywood blue and orange. I think that's an actual color combination that works.
Really, really interesting. This is nice too. Yeah, you know what? I will say this because you had mentioned Travis possibly being influenced by Whilce. I definitely, at times, if you look at some of his earlier Wildcat stuff, like the Wildcat special, I was definitely getting like some Whilce vibes back a long time ago. I remember looking at it and going like, you know what? I could see a little Whilce in this.
Yeah,
Travis used a little more shadow than Jim does.
I think that there was just this time period where everybody was bringing in influences and everybody was sharing freely, you know, like it's fun seeing, like, you don't think about Jim being kind of a mimic, but when you look at everybody else around at the time, you see him trying all these techniques. You know, he's trying some Kevin Nolan, he's trying some Art Adams. It's really fun.
Well, I think Jim is actually a real mimic, more than not, to be honest. So this again, really,
I didn't realize that.
Really creative layout from Whilce.
It's making you feel the panic of the situation.
Yeah, very, very creative.
You know, it's like he's devolving into madness, or maybe it's really happening, but it's like terrifying. So the panels can't even contain it.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. Okay. Oh, okay. This is a spread. It's a little cropped, but there's that creepy cat again.
Yeah, there's some. Here's an interesting comment from Gordon Mallet. Says, I think that the Otomo style panel consistency works well for long works. Crazy panels get, I don't know, sort of tiring after a certain page count. So that's a very good point, to vary it up, you know?
Yeah. It works for a 20-page comic or a 22-page comic where you've got like a month of breathing time in between them and stuff.
Yeah, but like maybe if you kept it story specific, you know, like if it's a calm moment, it's a relatively normal panel layout. And then when Steph gets going crazy, then you can really go nuts with it. Oh, look at that.
So much stuff to draw. Boy, this is tough shot. Guy with a rifle. This is back in the days where you couldn't go on the internet and get reference in 2 seconds.
So I'm wondering what happened, because, you know, this time period was filled with very exciting stuff, and it looks, you know, just everything was still kind of new. And then, like, I came in and I was immediately influenced by animation. So I was one of the people that was starting to kind of tone down on all the rendering and the shadows and things like that. And then eventually that kind of took over in a weird way. But it became more, golly, man. It became more boring. I don't know another word for it.
See,
but like you look at this, and this is an ordinary. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say this is, again, it's starting to remind me of Frank Miller, like Dark Knight Returns, but not the way that he drew it, but some of his pace.
Panels,
yeah.
But this should be just an ordinary boring page. I mean, they're just talking in a room, but it's like his acting, his panel layout. Yeah. He takes what could be a very boring page by anybody else and makes it, there's that cover.
So Scott Williams inks, he did a beautiful job on this. And then Paul Mounts.
Yeah. Colors. This, I'm wondering if that's Whilce painting the cover, though.
So the very first comic that I worked on at Wildstorm was written by Steve Gerber. I did Cybernary with Steve Gerber and Jeff Rebner.
I guess maybe that's where he got the connection to Wildstorm or to Homage, was from knowing these guys early on.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a very iconic cover. All right, you ready to get into X Factor? We can't dilly-dally.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
That was so iconic because that was that one ad piece that I'd see for some distribution company back in the day. It was in the back of every comic, and that image was just burned into my brain.
Okay.
Yeah, X Factor.
I have the comics in color. I actually turned a bunch of them black and white. And then some of these pieces might be more contemporary, but I'm trying to get to and then some of them we kind of have to look at them in color because unfortunately I think that's X Factor, that is because the scans are so light of the inks that it almost disintegrates. So should be okay. All right, so this is going to be a nice batch. These are all original art from Heritage, so if you want to ever check out these scans. So this is a cover, I think,
with RT Bear.
Yeah,
RT Bear using some marker. What's he doing there?
Oh, right.
This I'd love to hear. We'll have to pull this back up if you get art on, because this. I want to know if he just went after this like all excited, or if it took him a couple days before he started. Like,
probably.
What am I gonna do?
Running gun.
Yeah, just
running gun.
Because this is a lot of pencil mileage.
Yeah,
there's a lot of lines going on in this.
Whilce, back when I inked him, I worked with Whilce for about 2 years. He had actually very, very clear pencils. He does do some side of the pencil stuff, but generally speaking, he uses a fairly dark lead, and it's pretty clear on the page. Not everyone is so readable in pencil, but Whilce definitely he puts it in. So
Nathan Yeager, I think is how you pronounce that. Since Rich told me in a portfolio review that the eyes have to have a focus point, I'm obsessed with aligning the eyeballs. I think he may be referencing how they're all looking in different directions here.
Oh, right. Yeah, well,
but I think that might be adding to the chaos of the scene, like they're surrounded. So,
what I tell people is an easy way to draw eyes is just draw the ball in the socket and then put the lids over it like this, and you get your shape. And then it's actually very easy to have the eyes looking a certain way. But if you try to draw the eye like this and then you're doing it, I don't find it as simple to set up eyes, but that's your own call. But
I redraw eyes probably more than anything else. I erase and redraw until I get, because sometimes just the slightest bend down or a little bit more circular, it changes the emotion, like the slightest movement. Because human beings are extremely good at reading facial expressions. So you can very easily screw up the expression you're trying to portray with a subtle line. Real quick. The Iceman's power. He revolutionized how we saw Iceman, I think.
He draws the best Iceman. I totally agree. His Archangel and Iceman are just they're perfect.
It's just, I've never thought about that until you see this and you're like, oh, look at that. It's like flat plane. I never thought about that stuff before.
Like man, and he puts it at an angle. I mean, it's like it's in perspective. You know what I mean? That ellipse is like
a couple. Let's see. Batfan one says, "Who draws the sexier ladies, Jim or Whilce?"
Whilce back, in my opinion, in the 90s, Whilce actually had hotter girls.
Yeah, I may say Whilce because there's an X-Men cover with Aurora. What's her name? Storm, where she's like looking up and like the rain's hitting everywhere, and it's just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It's like one of the best.
Mark Silvestri of the three had the prettiest though.
That's true. Yeah, Mark wins hands down. He still does.
Mark on Wolverine and on his X-Men run drew really, really pretty girls. When he got it right, it was like just classic aesthetic.
Hugh Condraw said that cover introduced me to a world of X-Men and Whilce Portacio when it came out. After that, I just bought everything he drew. Same. For me, it was Liefeld and Jim Lee, but Whilce kind of like helped solidify it, where it was like, oh my God, this is the thing.
This is a different inker. I can't remember. I'm nearly sure that this is a different inker. I don't think this is. This is maybe Tom Palmer. I can't remember, but I don't believe that this particular page is art.
If it was Tom Palmer, it'd probably be a lot messier. Some of those lines are really fine.
Well, it's interesting too is they did a stat on this face. Like this is a piece of board that's cut out and then put on it, and it's not a very good drawing. Whoever did the stat, so there was.
It makes you wonder why. Yeah,
probably because there was a issue.
Yeah, maybe. Look at that. Now this is 100% Whilce. And I guess is this art inking as well?
Yes.
This is so just perfect. This is such a good page. I mean, the shadowing, the rendering, the faces.
Okay, so this looks like it says Uncanny up here, and it looks like it's issue 202 or 252. Okay. So this looks like it's an X-Men page. This could be Scott Williams, possibly. I'm only speculating. But it could
this might be this might be the interior of what the cover I was talking about, where Storm was kind of looking up, because this looks like Storm. Look at that face stretching.
Yeah, I know, it's really cool. I was just actually zooming in on that. It's funny that you said that. Yeah, it's really cool. So the way that they credit it is X Factor 63, which we'll look at in just a minute, is inked by Whilce. Whilce did all the art, and I don't know if that's accurate, but that's the way it's credited in the comic. And then every issue after that, art inked.
Yeah, this one of the things that I took away is the horizontal shading that Whilce did. He did a lot of horizontal lines, but it seemed like he would only have accent lines kind of coming off of it, but the majority of the lighting was horizontal, kind of thing,
like that sort of line.
Yeah, and on her, all over her body, and then but then they'll have like he'll have a little bit of going in a different plane, kind of accenting it.
So this is going across, and then he shows the curvature of the form with these lines. Yeah,
and then he seems to do a lot of either top-down lighting or left-right lighting, or both in some cases, where he'll do top-down, where you can see that the reason for doing, see like her breast there, or like her chest or rib cage, the reason to have like the no lighting on top, that's where the hottest light is hitting. It's the brightest right there. And then you have where the roundness of the breast, where the light stops hitting, and then the lines underneath kind of represent bounce light from underneath.
When you can see the abs right here, because they're on top, for people trying to learn this, these stick out more, and this is an underplane. So this is these again protrude further out of the body, and then this is an underplane. This sticks out, and it's also catching light from this direction. But there is actually a rhyme and a reason to what he's doing. And really, if you look at this figure, it's all of this is catching light, But again, the right here is where the breast starts to curve under, and he shows that plane with the shadow, that core shadow.
I think people really dig lots of lines. Like because everybody went to eventually cross hatching, but I don't really consider this cross hatching.
No,
except for in a few spots. Like he doesn't really do that. There's there's very little cross hatching going on here. But
this is 1991 Whilce Portacio.
I remember when this character came out, I was all in, because I had missed the kind of Cable
Yeah.
thing. And then when Bishop came out, I was like, dude, look at him, man. He's cool as
Yeah.
hell. And he had the bandana thing. We were
Yeah,
just,
yeah, yeah.
it was just so easy to impress us back in the day because like none of this was ever. It was so kind of bland, and then suddenly it was like crazy fashion and like wild hair and.
Right here is so Frank Miller, but it's like Frank Miller like 15 years later.
Yeah, big shoulder pads.
Yeah, like the shoulder pad and this real strokey black that he's got on it, and just the American flag kind of cape thing or whatever it is.
No, that's the Wizard. Remember, this is a Wizard cover.
Oh, right, right. Okay,
so this was all airbrush painted, and but those are the purple, Wizard stars.
Right. Oh, see, that's funny. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so this is
What's
a layover for
here?
this cover. So this is just the speed lines that went on the cover. The cover's the next piece, but this is like a piece of vellum with the speed lines. So they clearly didn't want to have them going through the art, like where it would have been a pain in the ass to do it. It's not that bad though. There's not that many speed lines here, but for whatever reason they opted to do it that way. And then here's the cover.
Yeah, I'm kind of always terrified about that.
Now, do you see how thin these inks are? So in the comic books, what you'll find is that they do kind of disintegrate at times.
That was then.
Yeah.
That was that paper they were using and probably some of the printing techniques. But if you were to do this today with modern printing and nice paper, it would look as crisp as anything. So you can do this today, huh?
But these are very, very thin lines, though. Like even the contours around this guy are quite thin.
This is why, like old books, you look like looking at original art now. You're looking at this was a cover too, so it printed a little better. But you got the dots of the colors, and it's really all this tiny stuff blends together. But I think you can probably get away with this kind of stuff a lot easier today.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I love the way he draws like the anatomy. Man, it's so cool.
Yeah, that's such a wicked character. I don't know what's going on there, but it's cool.
What's neat about Whilce too, like if you ever catch him at a con, he absolutely loves to talk shop. So I don't know.
Cool.
But man, when I would go to chat with him, I would just go like, all right, I'm going to be in here for probably like 2 hours.
And man, he would no kidding.
Like, drop science. Yeah, he is really, really like very, very fun to talk to, and very like just has like a teacher's heart.
So this is really interesting. So like, okay, let me give you like a rundown. Don't go from this one yet. See how he's got the horizontal lines on the bottom of like their legs, for instance, and that kind of shows the bounce light coming from underneath. And but Mignola does that as well. He's done that for years, and Silvestri kind of pulled that from Mignola, and maybe even a little bit of Whilce here as well. But the first time I'd ever seen anybody do that is actually Frazetta. Like in his sketches, he'll not draw, he'll not fill in the black. He'll just kind of throw some lines in it and have like a smoky, so it's not black. So like here, I probably would have just blackened in that leg. Right. But he left the black out and then put these horizontal lines kind of showing a fade coming in, and that gives you this secondary light source. It's so elegant and cool.
It's interesting. You'd almost have to check dates, like on particular pieces where you see it and go like, okay, so this was 91. Can we find it in 89? Like who was doing it in 89? Who was doing it in 87?
Well, we've seen it. Well, we've seen it in like the earliest of Whilce's stuff, and Mignola says he was influenced by Frazetta, and Silvestri says he was influenced by Mignola. Yeah. So, but Whilce,
I think
might be an anomaly.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Silvestri was, as far as I know, was a big Wrightson and Frazetta fan. Right. Also Buscema.
Buscema.
Yeah. It's interesting, and also you're starting to see the waggle technique come up. The sort of Now, as far as I know, Scott Williams. Well, I mean, it could be T-Bear too, but somewhere this all of a sudden evolved into a thing. Now I don't know. I have no idea where, but yeah, that's the waggle, the scissors, the stick.
I started doing kind of my own version of that, which is just a little,
Yeah.
but without any of the dual sizes see, that looks a little more complex. But I think the first time I saw it was from Mignola or from Scott, or I honestly can't remember. Maybe Michael Golden even did a little something like that.
Yeah. So there's a couple of ways I do it. I mean, you can definitely do it as one stroke where you go like thick, thin, thick, thin, thick, thin. That one doesn't look as good to me. I mean, it can, but it won't look like this. These to me look, well, I mean, I like how I would do these is
it looks like he's doing little U shapes,
brush strokes like this. So there'll be a tapered line. And then I would go in and do the second thinner stroke. I'm not saying that that's what he did, but you know what I mean? You would take like lines like these and just connect them, So, but I don't know, I don't know. You could do it with a brush too, do the stroke. Or
Atomic Bulldog Art says Byrne did it in Man of Steel, although it was never really colored that way. That's interesting. Yeah. Maybe that's why I never noticed it.
Well, and you figure Jim was definitely a big John Byrne fan. I don't know as much about if Whilce was. I don't see a lot of John Byrne and Whilce's stuff, but that's not to say that he wasn't a huge fan,
Yeah, he was fairly influential. So at the time, this is a killer piece. This was right off of 7-Eleven's shelf. I remember buying this issue.
Art crushed it. I wonder if Art kept any of this art.
Oh man, that would be so fun. I hope he did. Probably sold it
for his own. Well, this was on Heritage, so they obviously sold this piece. Someone did it at some point.
I'll ask him if I can have one.
Okay, this is Wetworks. My apologies. We can just look at it since it's open, but this is Wetworks. So this will be Scott Williams issue 4, and you can see the evolution and how slick things got.
Yeah, there seems to be kind of like a loss of roughness. It's so slick.
Oh, right.
It's like there was almost like a speed or a roughness. And I mean, this is still really like expertly done, but it's like I don't know what it is. Is it? It's not catching me as much. The rendering is a little different, maybe.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, there was huge gaps. So between issues 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Which issue is this?
This is issue 4. It says. So Whilce's sister had passed away. He had taken a very long hiatus, and maybe was just trying to get kind of back on track. So mental focus is a big part of drawing. It's funny too, this really harkens to the that variant cover thing that he did, where there was like 9 covers, Team 7, Wildcats, Gen 13, maybe it was 6, that all connected into one piece. But this is very similar, the background and all that. And Alex Garner inked all those variant covers. I do know that. So, but this to me, I believe, is Scott Williams. Right.
Oh, this is interesting. Light Kick 1 says Whilce has really changed his style. I think it's fantastic. I came in late. Do you guys show his New Universe work with? Oh shit! It moved up. When he started with Shooters Marvel, New Universe. I think we started with. I don't know if I know that one.
I've never heard of it. It's a book called New Universe, or it was just like an event, like a New Universe event.
Maybe I show his New Universe work when he started in Shooters Marvel. I don't know. Explain.
What year? What year was that? If you know, like, give us an estimate of what year it is. This isn't dated, but this, to me, based on this aesthetic here, looks to be like the late 80s.
This is Whilce inked by Williams. Yeah. No, look at that hair. That's very 80s hair.
Yeah. Cable. So Cable's first appearance was what? New Mutants 87? Is that correct?
So I guess, yeah.
I think Rob Liefeld
kind of loosey goosey.
Yeah, I think so. That would have been in the 80s. So Cable actually at this point is a new character, quite new.
Look at he gave Wolverine fangs.
Yeah, he does have fangs. His head is a very weird shape too. This is almost like when you would see people that would do fill-in issues of Wolverine, and that was like
Yeah.
his head is starting to kind of like turn into like this sort of shape.
Yeah, well, you kind of almost latch on to the iconography of it, and it does change kind of the shape of the skull. That's
His
a
upper
beefy Wolverine, though.
He's very beefy. I was just thinking that
He's
too.
solid as a rock. Good Lord.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like the hands. Okay, so now let's get into some of the X Factor comics. We're actually going to look at the comic books themselves in color. So let's start with 63. This is the one that I believe Whilce did all himself. At least that's
1986. 1986 universe. 1986 New Universe event. Star Brand. Strike Force. Strike Force Mortuary. Cyforce. Among others. That's interesting.
Okay, so Art Fair inked the cover on this. This is a great piece too. Really,
wow,
really
so
cool.
they were a real team. That's I don't think I've ever realized how much they've done together.
And this is 1990.
Wow. I really like this cover a lot.
I'm going to speculate when we start looking at the book. I'm going to try to figure it out. I'm going to guess just right now that the credits might have been mistaken and the art inked the interiors. We'll see when we look at the art. But that does happen where there's a slip up and you don't get credited.
I personally prefer this kind of color. I mean, look, it's just so immediate. Yep. I can grasp every detail. It
awesome,
pops.
Nice, man.
Yeah, whoever colored this did a great job.
It's probably Joe Rosas.
Oh man,
I'm guessing, but
good job.
Rosas was their guy. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to get out of this for 1 sec. Let's look at this. Okay, so.
Oh wow.
We'll go to full screen in a sec. This is such a classic. I love the Santa appearances in old Marvel books. Joe
really?
Madureira. Kind of like McFarlane had one.
Just because you like Santa? Like what?
It reminds me of like Home Alone or like New York, you know what I mean? Like Christmas in New York or Manhattan. I don't know. It just is a weird juxtaposition of like family and the holidays.
I'm gonna put a Santa serial killer in mine just for you.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't care.
He'll be in the background running off with somebody.
So these don't look like Art's inks to me. Now that I'm looking at it, it looks a little more.
Almost looks like his own. It looks like his own.
That's how they credit it. They credit it as Whilce did the art.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Whilce Portacio got plot and art on this. Hey, Michael Heisler lettered it. That's a friend of mine. Nice. Oh, and it says special assist Homage Studios. So this might have been a little bit of a jam, which means Scott Williams might have done a little bit. Well, but I think Art was part of Homage too, wasn't he?
Yeah, it could be Art, could be Scott. Well, if it was, you know how those guys work. Even Jim might have penciled a face or two in here.
Yeah.
Ooh, here, I'll be right back. Hang on.
Yeah, no worries. I love this kind of color too. I have to say, it's pretty cool. The flat works good. This background's great too. So it looks like they did like Kirby Crackle maybe with a brush. So like they drew the black dots and then they went in with white ink and did the like these strokey effects. So you can see a little bit of that going on. But yeah, these old comics too are actually very easy to remove the colors from because you can turn it grayscale and start removing the gray, and you can turn it black and white pretty easily. Sometimes it'll disintegrate the line art just a tiny bit, but if you do it slow, you can kind of get it to like a black and white thing. See that? It's magic. There's a little bit of gray still left here, but anyway, you get the idea. I like to see the art in black and white because I need to know what pages look like in black and white because that's what I'm working in, and then colorists can deal with that end of things, but it just helps you lay out stuff and see how much detail is actually in the art. Obviously with coloring this simple, it's not as confusing, but you start seeing really rendered, like airbrushy art. The color can add a lot of detail. So
yeah, well, I mean, my philosophy getting older is that the black of the art should be the deepest value. You know, that you should never go full dark, like you should let the art do that part.
Very Whilce. Whilce is great at rock.
Yeah, no kidding. Good stuff.
And again, it's one of these down shots. He gets the down shots with the tiny figures, a little bit of 3-point perspective going on. And then this is, I love this stuff. The white background with just the figures standing on it. It looks so good to me.
I think I like this era X-Men suit too. Like her suit right there, her pose and everything just looks really great.
Yeah.
And I like the high collar stuff. I'm still doing high collar stuff, even though I know it's not some fashion anymore. I still love to pop that collar up. It looks so cool. That's cool. That metal, man. Gosh, if you think about it, Whilce was a master of that forever. I mean, this is Iceman, but it's still the same principle, you know?
Well, and clearly he enjoyed this enough to bring it over into Wetworks. That aesthetic, the really just slick, like chrome lines. I can't remember if he was like a Soriyama fan, but Soriyama was so famous for doing like metal sort of characters, you know.
Hans Roger Austin says looks better in black and white. That's
yeah. A lot
of us prefer black and white.
I turned all these pages into black and white. The problem was that sometimes the line work was so thin that it really decayed the art and it was difficult to see. But I did actually turn each issue black and white for this. It just was, there were so many pages that were hard to read because of it.
See, when a colorist knows what they're doing, they could tackle that dual lighting. They missed the opportunity on that second panel, but look what they do in the third here.
Oh, this right here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Whilce is giving it to him in every shot, but he's not taking advantage of it.
Here, he's giving you that. This is the edge. I want the rim lighting hanging out there, even on the face.
He has that same lighting in the second panel too, and on the hands there. See on his back, he could have had that white, that hard highlight in the back.
The yellow.
Colorist discretion, I guess.
Yeah.
This looks like it was done really fast. That ninja sword isn't even colored in that one.
Right.
Yeah, this is some of it could be the people cutting the slides.
I fixed it for you.
Yeah, all right. That helps my OCD.
Yeah, right. It's like you just save the file for yourself so that when you look at the comic, it's right.
Yeah. So somebody said earlier, I forget who it was, but he said Whilce's upshots are like the best. So he does great upshots.
He's great with like tech too.
Yeah. Yeah, there's kind of an Homage Studios tech style that's it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it looks cool. You know, it's like, it's almost like you have big shapes, but then you'll have design lines cut through it. And then within those smaller shapes, it'll have lots of little tech doodles. So you're not having to tech it all out. You're just kind of picking spots to add that detail in, you know?
So this is interesting. This has a little tiny bit of a Jim Lee vibe to me. Just this drawing right here.
I really got to jet soon, if you don't mind. No
worries. It's Mother's Day and it is noon. I told you that I would get you out of here at noon.
It's 2:00 my time. It's getting late in the day.
Yeah. Okay, so let's do this. Let's wrap it up for now, and we'll come back and we'll do the rest of X Factor. We could even do it with Art if he's interested in coming on, and then we'll do Wetworks as its own thing because it is Mother's Day, and I don't want to.
I didn't realize that too. I'm gonna get angry phone calls here in a minute.
Oh, you gotta call all your moms?
No. Yeah, I got a bunch of
them. Your baby mamas. All the women you've loved before.
Well, that was fun though. I mean,
we did 90 minutes, so.
That's so fun though. I mean, he's such an inspiration. Looking back on some of that stuff, it's like, oh man, I want to just take a little of this and a little of that, and just how he does hair, and then that horizontal shading, and how he does the lighting, and so that dynamic panel layout spoke to me more than everything. I was like, Oh man, I want to get into some of that.
Yeah.
Have some fun.
I mean, I was saying this to someone the other day that the funnest thing about art is it just gets better and better and better. The old, like, not necessarily the older you get, but the more you like learn about it, the more you start to appreciate like the thought
technique.
process that other artists use. It's just so cool. So
don't sweat the technique, they say, but I love the technique. I want to sweat it.
Well, it's you know, like it's just something that we enjoy. I mean, art should be creative and fun and spontaneous, but you know, it's also fun to study it as more of a left brain thing.
Well, I'll study even just looking at it is fun. That's why I got interested in comics in the first place. It's like, where can you find consistently cool fantasy art on a regular basis? It's comic books. That's it.
Yeah, I talked about like with Heavy Metal Magazine, like if you were a kid and you would get like a Heavy Metal Magazine, that was like a movie for you for the next month or two until you were lucky enough to find another one at 7-Eleven, you know?
Well, we didn't go to the movie. It was like back in the day, it was a little harder. So you go on Friday or Saturday or the weekend, or sometimes every once in a while you can go in during the week. But it was rare going to the movies. I'd always wait for the big ones. But comic books, they gave you that excitement every week, every Wednesday.
Yeah.
I was a Wednesday warrior.
there was a game store, which isn't exactly comics, but we were really into Dungeons and Dragons. But there was a game store, but it's about, I would say, 10 miles from my house. But as a 13-year-old, we would kind of get the courage to basically ride our bikes to this store, maybe like once or twice a year. But man, it was like a trek. We'd show up at a friend's house like 10 in the morning, and we're like, all right, ready for the 13-mile bike ride to this game shop. It was way on the other side of town, but we'd go for it.
Rain, snow. Yeah.
You would come home with like, 2 modules and maybe like new dice, and you were just like,
yeah.
But that would put gas in the tank for like 6 months, you know?
Yeah.
Creative fuel. So, yeah. So, all right, everyone have a great day. Happy Mother's Day. Go all call your moms or hug them. And I got to work. I got to finish a page. So
go show them some Whilce Portacio. She'll love it.
Yeah. Give her Wetworks.
And go eat some Whilce Pistachios. Those are good.
Yeah.
Bad joke. Okay, bad dad joke.
Kelsey,
all right, later.
Beard. All right, bye.
Oh, my beard.